how is that for you guys? And I don't care what order you go in terms of the bittersweet. I mean, I can't imagine what that's like on Memorial Day when you still haven't gotten justice and and people are still being gaslit. Like, what is that? It seems like it would be a real like juxtaposition of Memorial Day for you guys in particular.
Let me tell you what I did this Memorial Day. I went out and got a tattoo on this side.
Wow.
About the USS Liberty slaughtered by Israel, June 8th, 1967. On the other side, 34 names of my brothers slaughtered that day. They will never be forgotten, especially by myself, Larry Bowman, and other crew members.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. For me, this is really a bittersweet day. We remember our 34 fallen shipmates, and the fact that they made the ultimate sacrifice back on June 8th, 1967. And so it's emotionally, it's very hard for me on Memorial Day to, I mean, we're honoring all of our fallen heroes, men and women who gave their lives to defend our freedoms. And these 34 shipmates of ours were slaughtered. They were murdered, as Phil said. They we were doing nothing harmful in the Eastern Mediterranean that day. We were in international waters, and Israel came out in an unprovoked attack and slaughtered, the crew. They just crippled the ship, and we were pretty much defenseless to begin with because we were an intelligence ship. And what happened that day should have never happened. And then to make matters worse, our government refused to come to our aid. I mean, when we were under attack, they didn't come to help us. It was 17 or 18 hours later, the next day, before they finally had ships arrive to help, offload our wounded and take care of the seriously wounded, crew members. Over 174 were wounded, 34 were killed out of a crew of 294. It was ridiculous. And then to make matters even worse, a couple of days later, Admiral Kidd came on board the ship and told all of us to never speak of it. We couldn't talk amongst ourselves. We couldn't talk to our families. So, most of us suppressed that for years. You were afraid to say anything for fear of being imprisoned or fined or both. It was just, and it's been that way for 59 years. We're coming up on the 59th anniversary of June 8th, 1967. And our government still hasn't acknowledged the crew in any meaningful way. There's been no public recognition. Peter, as you mentioned, they they put a hush up on this. Most of the people that listen to your program probably never heard of the USS Liberty because it was covered up, and it's still being covered up.
I want to ask you gentlemen both a question, because if anybody should be speaking on this, it's the two of you. We're seeing sort of a renaissance moment happening in this country. I am obviously a lot younger than you guys. I'm sure that going back to the late 60s, especially at the dawn of the initial stages of the expansion of the state of Israel, the opinion in the United States when it came to even speaking out against the state was probably considered a non-starter for most. Have you seen any type of an evolution when it comes to the state of Israel in terms of the general consensus from the American people? Because it does seem that, especially today, the growing consensus is we're done with these guys. Like, we want to be done with our conscription to the state of Israel.
You're spot on. And what Israel has done to itself with Gaza, and this war didn't start with Gaza on October 7th. It started in 1948. So it's been an ongoing war and conflict. America didn't have any problems in the Middle East until 1948. And what is progressed on and on to this very day with all the wars, all the men sacrificed and women. I mean, people that love this country, that went to fight for this country, but who were they really fighting for? And it's become very clear through President Donald Trump and his subordinates in the cabinet, in the Congress, in the Senate. Nobody really wants to do anything about it because they're all taking money from AIPAC. They're taking money from AIPAC, the ADL, and great amounts. And, you know, I see this as looking back as a 20-year-old kid and what we went through, and then growing up to find out what I really didn't want to really know. And is our country is controlled by the Zionist state. That's why we're almost in another fighting war with Iran. I pray to God that doesn't happen. But for us, civilians and veterans, this Memorial Day should be remembered as a referendum against the Zionist state of Israel, from going back longer than we can even talk about. I know that I'm rambling on here a little bit, but it's just exactly the way I feel. There's no two human beings on this world right now I know that love our country any more than Larry Bowman and myself. Larry Bowman was a very distinguished E8 or E7 before he became a officer, a very distinguished officer. You know, I mean, he made it up to, what was it?
CWO3.
Yes. Okay. I thought it was, I didn't know for sure. But that's kind of my story, the way I believe. And it's nothing. Hey, listen, man, the USS Liberty veterans got thrown under this war that they put upon us. And our government let them get by with it. They almost murdered us all. But by the grace of God, we survived. And you guys are talking about young people. The young people are going to win because they smartened up. They finally smartened up and saw it. Gaza, Lebanon, and all the rest. And we're going to be in Florida at the James Fishback event. My friend Larry and I are both going to speak in front of a huge audience. And all we want is the truth. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm anti-Semitic because I'm telling the truth. Because we had Jewish stars of David all over that ship, hoping Israel would win. Well, we had no idea our country and Israel would stab us in the back and hope we sunk, starting World War III and starting a nuclear war, by the way. So with that, I would like Larry to chime in. I really would, if you don't mind. And your thoughts, Larry, on my rambling on.
Well, I was going to say, Peter, the Generation Z group, the younger folks, have have awakened to what's going on over in the Middle East. They've been very supportive of the USS Liberty Veterans Association. They recognize that what's happening with our government and the control that the Zionist, Israeli faction has over our government is not what the United States is all about. We're a democracy, and we need to get away from this other nation that seems to be directing a lot of what happens in Congress. It's just, I was appalled when I read the fact that our congressmen and senators actually have APAC representatives in their offices to, to help them
I saw it.
filter through anything that's coming across their desk. If it's, detrimental to Israel, it gets scrubbed. They don't do anything about it. It's just, how can that be?
Jen and I were on Capitol Hill about a month and a half ago, and when we were there, you notice a lot of things. I will say this, and I am somewhat biased about this. There was only one congressman that I wanted to meet while I was there, and I got to meet him, and that, of course, is Thomas Massey. We had a nice little chat for a couple minutes. He was willing to give me his time, even though he was going into a meeting. And the thing that I took away from walking in those halls was simply this. The strategy that some people want to employ in terms of how they think they're going to make change doesn't hold water. There are ways to do it, but the way that they're going about it is not going to work. And then the other thing that I noticed is that they really had the tiny hats running around Capitol Hill, and I'm talking like in the dozens. Like they're there all day, every day, harassing the hell out of every one of these federal representatives. You better be on board with Israel, better get on board, might have that money, go somewhere else. But what I think we can take away from what just happened to Congressman Massey is that their level of desperation to feel that they have to spend that exorbitant amount of money in order to remove one federal legislator who is working against their efforts shows that their position is untenable at this point. If people truly were on board with this cause, then they wouldn't need to spend $30 million in Eastern Kentucky on a federal race for Congress. I mean, that's crazy, but then again, we are seeing substantially significant cracks in the armor. And so it is imperative that we continue to share this story about what you guys went through, because there are still millions upon millions of people in this country who are not familiar with it. And even if they are, unless you've served in combat, most people will truly not understand what this is all about, especially if you're being fired upon by somebody who you thought was supposed to be your ally. We all know they're not our ally. That's a whole other story. But to even be in that situation, to me, is always something that really cuts at my core. And more than anything else, which I'm sure, again, I wasn't a soldier, and I know there was an opportunity where I could have been. But point is, you guys lived through this, and I can't even imagine. I mean, you think I'm pissed off when I see the Mark Levins and the Cory Bookers of the world say, no, we have to go to war. We need more war. I can't imagine how you guys feel about individuals who have never served our country saying that more innocent men, women, and children have to die for their political and ideological cause. I can't even imagine, but would love to get your guys' thoughts on it.
Well, I can say before I got aboard the Liberty, I did 2 cruises to Vietnam on an ammunition ship. And when I came back from that, everybody was against the war, and I couldn't figure out why, because when we joined the service, we took that pledge, and we thought we were right, but we were wrong. I mean, the Vietnam War was wrong, and it was set up by a false flag, in the Tonkin with the USS Maddox. and Turner Joy. So it's all been manufactured, these wars, for the greater good of the bankers and the people that own the banks, the people that own the media, and the talking heads in Congress, like Thomas Massey. You know, Thomas Massey and Candace Owens should run for president, either one of them, and that'd be my hope.